What's up, everybody? A very happy Friday on the Refuse to Lose podcast. Brady Farkas with you here as always. You can also follow us always on the written side of things over at Roundtable Sports. More on that in a minute. We are back live on YouTube today, and the reason why is because I did have some people ask for it here in the offseason. I haven't done a whole lot of live stuff since the regular season, or since the playoff run ended, rather, but some people did ask for it, so we will try to keep building up the YouTube presence, and we appreciate those of you who find us anywhere. Pretty big day for myself and Taryn Kovac over at Roundtable Sports here, and we'll kind of set the table for the M's here in a second. But if you've been following now for a while, and a lot of you have, you know that Taryn and I made the move over from Sports Illustrated and the SI group over to Roundtable Sports in early September. At Roundtable Sports, basically, we're building from the ground up. It's a very big network. It's a national network. There's 150 teams in the network. The Mariners are one of them. Taryn and I obviously run that site and run the Mariners for Roundtable, and it's been a lot of fun. And we've asked you to support our written work and to join our free Roundtable Sports community, because that really helps us kind of grow the site and get the word out. Well, one very cool thing happened to us on Thursday. Roundtable Sports has a partnership with Yahoo Sports. So now if you go to Yahoo and look at the Mariners team page on Yahoo, you will see it inundated and flooded with myself and Taryn's content. There are other people who produce content that also are kind of partnered with Yahoo. So you will see some of your other favorite Mariners writers there also. We're not bumping them out. We're just getting added to the party. But you will see a lot of content from the Mariners, or for the Mariners, about the Mariners, from me and Taryn Kovac, and that's kind of a big thing for our growth. So we do ask that you continue to read us wherever you can find us, right? You'll see us now more regularly on Google. You'll see us on Yahoo, and you will see us through all the links that we share on social media at Mariners Roundtable. The best way you can help us is read us, share us, spread the word, and join the free Mariners community. There is a ton to get to in this episode. So without further ado, let go.
5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
And here we go.
I'll be honest, I enjoy having a guest on, so my apologies for not having a guest on here as regularly in the off season. But just a reminder, if you also like guests, we do have Buster Olney every single Thursday. So Thursday's episode is available in our podcast feed, Apple Podcasts, and on Spotify. Let's not bury the lead. Let's go right back to Josh Naylor. We talked a lot about him on Tuesday, but the press conference happened on Tuesday. So let's kind of recap that here a couple of days out. I watched the entire Naylor press conference, as did, I'm sure, a lot of you. Our own Taryn Kovac was there. And I want to start here. In February of 2026, so 3 months from now, I will have been in this business for 12 years, which is hard to believe, right? Started in February of 2014, working a part-time job in Albany, New York from 6 a.m. to 10 a.m. That was my maiden voyage into radio and true sports media. So I will have done this for 12 years. And in those 12 years, I've gotten to see a lot. I've gotten to do a lot. I've gotten to go a lot of places that I never thought I would imagine. But I've also learned a lot in these 12 years. And one of the things I've learned, and one of kind of the harshest lessons that I've learned, is to not be impressed with the press conference. Too often in my career, too often in my life, too often in my fandom, I have been a sucker for the press conference. What the executives say, what the athletes say, what the coaches say. I've bought into the buzzwords. I've bought into all of that stuff, and I have been disappointed or let down too many times that now I tend to no longer be impressed by that stuff. You hear me say it a lot. My motto, it's a game of show, not tell. This is where it came from. I have been burned too many times by fancy press conference attire and fancy press conference lingo. I've been burned by it, so I've just stopped buying into it. All that to say, when it came to Josh Naylor's press conference on Tuesday, I believed every word he said. Now, players lie, coaches lie, executives lie, owners lie, media members lie. Josh Naylor, I believe every single word he said. And that's not because I'm an optimist. That's not because he's a Mariner. It's not because of how revered he is for the end of 2025. It's because of what we've gotten to know and observe about Josh Naylor. In general, he is a man of few words. In all the time I was around the clubhouse, I didn't talk to Naylor very often. He wasn't very talkative. And it's not because he's mean. It's because he's just businesslike, right? Like he doesn't go out of his way to talk to the media. Again, not maliciously. I just didn't kind of generate a relationship with him. I talked to him for sure one time, maybe a second, but he is a man of few words. And when he speaks, I believe he's speaking the truth. Okay. I don't think he really cares too much about the perception or opinions of him. He has nothing to gain by lying. I think he just says what's on his mind, and you like it or you don't, and then whatever. But on Tuesday at his press conference, every single word, I bought into it. His love of the city, his talk about being a new dad, about his family, about being a supportive husband, about his parents, about his teammates, about the city, about wanting to win a World Series. I have done this long enough to have a pretty good sense of when you're being played and when someone is phony. And Josh Naylor is anything but phony. Okay. This video that I'm about to play is kind of a spliced compilation of some of the press conference's greatest hits. It comes from the Mariners directly on social media. I watched all 30 minutes of kind of maybe 45 minutes of the press conference. This is, again, some of it kind of aggregated together. But what you hear here from Naylor, again, I buy every word of. You know, I talk about Naylor not caring what other people think. Look, I think he does care what the fans think. And when he says, I love them, I hope they love me, I think he wants to be loved by the fans. And I think, again, like his fierce loyalty is part of what made him want to come back to Seattle. And again, it's also what made me believe everything he's saying. I believe that he feels a loyalty to the people, to the teammates, to the organization, to the coaches, to the people in the room. And I just think it was a, pardon the pun, it was a nailed press conference. He was awesome. What he said was awesome. And I will reiterate this, what I said on Tuesday. For me, it doesn't have to be the same way for you. For me, the pain of 2025's ended on Monday and Tuesday. I am now ready and excited to look forward to 2026. I can now be optimistic again. That's how powerful this signing was. To me, the grieving is now over. It's time to look forward, and forward has challenges, but forward is also pretty darn exciting. And I don't want this to get lost in the shuffle. We have to give the Mariners in general, organizationally, credit as well. I know it's unpopular, but we have to give the Mariners credit, and that's everybody. And that's everybody from ownership to the front office, to the coaching staff, to the other players, to the minor league coordinators, player development, everybody. We have to give them credit for building something that people want to be a part of. I think it was Shannon Dreyer over at Seattle Sports 710 who posted this on social media, and she was right. Several people have now made real life-changing decisions to stay with the Mariners over the last few years, right? This is now a trend. This is not an outlier situation. And I'm not totally naive to it all. Money is always going to talk, and winning is always going to matter. But again, this is now a trend. Julio Rodriguez chose to put his long-term future here because even at a young age, he was already comfortable with the group that developed and cultivated him. The Mariners built something that Julio wanted to see through for a very long time. Cal Raleigh did not have to sign a long-term contract extension. Cal Raleigh could have done what all the other Scott Boras clients do for the most part and go and waited it out until free agency and made a ton of money in arbitration, especially after this year. He did not have to stay long-term. He did. Josh Naylor didn't have to come back. He wanted to. Jorge Polanco didn't have to come back after 2024. He wanted to. Again, money, playing time, winning, it's always going to matter. But the infrastructure and the structure in place, that matters also. And the Mariners seem to have done and been doing a really good job at that stuff. Other organizations out there are chasing what the Mariners have. Don't you think that the Pittsburgh Pirates would love to have the infrastructure the Mariners have? The Miami Marlins, the Angels, these teams that have not been very good, they are trying to build what the Mariners have. Think about every year after the NFL season comes out, we get this like player survey where players kind of talk about their organization and kind of give a report card to their organization. You see things like amenities, how my family's treated, weight room, travel, practice facility, etc. And the national sports media makes a big deal about all of these grades and all of these categories. And they do that because it's football. And while we don't get that kind of report in baseball, people obviously talk about all of those things amongst themselves. If we had that in baseball and it was made public, I'd have to imagine the Mariners in general would be doing pretty well at that kind of off-the-field, extracurricular culture stuff. And it's a credit to Jerry DiPoto and a credit to the people that he's hired or helped hire. It's a credit to Scott Service, who helped implement it for a long time on the field. It's a credit to Dan Wilson for taking it and making it his own. And it's a credit to the players. Again, I keep saying this. The Mariners are a young veteran team. So the players in that clubhouse that have grown up in that clubhouse and have made the clubhouse their own and have made it a welcoming environment. And that is J.P. Crawford. That is Cal Raleigh. That is Julio Rodriguez. Eugenio Suarez when he was here the first time, laying the foundation. George Kirby, Brian, like they're all part of it now. And they really do deserve a lot of credit. And we talked a lot about the Naylor signing on Tuesday and all the different angles to it and all the different permutations to it and what it means and what it might mean and how it affects the budget. All that's true. I hadn't considered this angle all that much. John Morosi, MLB Network, was on Seattle Sports 710, Wyman and Bob on Thursday. I want to make sure I give them credit. And he had this to say, which again, I think is a really, really good point.
I want everybody, this is a fan conversation. This is a front office conversation, manager, everything. When you create the right environment and when you win, you don't have to try as hard or spend as much in free agency. When anybody ever asks, why do teams spend on infrastructure, on coaching, on good travel, high performance, whether it's physical therapists, mental health support, all the different things, the way they treat families, all the things that go into doing it the right way. When you do it the right way, often enough, it comes back to you with times like this.
And that is a really good thing to point out by John Morosi. If you build it right and make it a place, again, where you can win and where you can get paid, but make it a place that's comfortable for people, that really does matter. That really does matter. And eventually you will reap the rewards of that. I mean, think about any place you've ever worked. Right now, you and I don't have as much freedom as these guys do, I'm sure, or don't have the financial latitude to make decisions like they do, or the ability to move across the country, whatever. But you know if you've worked at a good place and you know you've worked at a bad place. And the good place, you tend to want to stay for a long time. And the Mariners are building that kind of environment as well. And that is incredibly impressive, and a lot of different people deserve credit for it. With Naylor in the fold, the Mariners can go to work on the rest of their off season. They know the budget. They know the market. They know their needs. It's time to go and capitalize. Now, I had Buster on Thursday, and Buster said the following, and I got to say, I actually disagree with him. I agree with Buster on a lot of things, and that's why I love talking to him. And that's why I have him on every single week, because I love talking with Buster. This one, I disagreed with a little bit.
All of them. And I texted you as soon as the deal went down. I mentioned to you that no matter what, and I ran this past some executives of other teams after I texted you. I said, no matter what the Mariners do the rest of the winter, they've had a good offseason. And everyone's like, yep, that's right. They don't really have to do a lot because their rotation is fine as it is. And their everyday lineup now with Naylor in is fine as it is. Maybe you go after Suarez. Maybe you monitor that market. You certainly, it's pretty clear they want to re-sign Jorge Polanco, who's a good player for them. But let's say everything else fails, because you got Josh Naylor to be that other guy in the middle of the order, along with Cal and along with Julio. I think they've had an excellent winter.
Now, the only thing I disagree with is, like, if everything else fails, it's still great. I want to win the World Series. I now got a taste of what it's like to be close to winning the World Series. I want the Mariners to continue to push, and I think they will, right? So even if they push for Polanco, they push for Suarez, and somebody else outbids them, or they don't get them, or they choose whatever, like, I will appreciate the effort. But if they fall short on adding other pieces of talent, I will not look at it as like, okay, the offseason was a home run. It's already a good offseason by getting Naylor. I want it to be great. Buster and others appear to think it's already excellent. I now want to get greedy. They did the thing they had to do. Now get greedy. Polanco, maybe Suarez, maybe a trade, maybe Scooble, whatever it is. I am now getting greedy, and I've raised my expectations. And I want everybody else to raise their expectations as well. All right, this came out on Wednesday, and we've talked about this, or I talked about this over at Roundtable Sports, but this came out on Wednesday from the Mariners, that the Mariners are going to celebrate their 50th season all year long in 2026, right? 50 years, 50 seasons of Mariners baseball will like, that will be the 50th season of Mariners baseball. And it's hard to believe that I've been a fan for more than 2/3 of those 50 seasons at this point. But the Mariners are going to do a lot of fun things in the 2026 season. And look, I don't know about you. I'm a sucker for promotions, right? I like collecting things, even though I'm 36 and I know collecting things is for little kids, but like I like having things, and I like kind of one-of-a-kind things, unique things, even if they're ballpark giveaways, right? So, like, I'm in on the bobbleheads, I'm in on the jerseys, I'm in on the T-shirts, I'm in on the signs, whatever it is, right? If you're watching this on video, you can see the collection of signs behind me here on this wall. 3/4 of those are things that you would have gotten at the ballpark or out of a newspaper. So, like, I like collecting things. So when you look at the promo, look, there's a lot of promo stuff, promo schedule. You can find it on our website here again at Mariners Roundtable. So that's part of the 50th year celebration. The other thing that's a part of the 50-year celebration, like, it's going to be very cool to collect the thing. Like, Julio 90s throwback jersey is in May. I would want that. There's a Cal Raleigh, I think, 70s throwback jersey. I would want that too. There's all kinds of stuff. In addition to that, in August, the Mariners are going to unveil the 50 greatest Mariners of all time, the all-time Mariners team. And there's a fan vote for it. I'll be honest with you, I have already voted. And I don't know if it's exclusively fan voting or if there's any kind of oversight committee here, or if it's just going to turn into a popularity contest. I don't know that answer yet. But the top 50 Mariners players will be revealed in 2026. And I'm actually, I hate rankings. I have hated rankings for a long time. I hate rankings talk. I hate power rankings. I hate Mount Rushmore season. I hate all of it. This I'm actually into. The top 50 Mariners of all time. And some of them are obviously very, very obvious. Some of them are very, very nuanced. And I'm going to go through my list quickly because, again, I don't want to bore you with 50 names and 50 cases and 50 sets of reasons. But I've got a 50 that I feel pretty good about at this point. I don't necessarily believe that I've forgotten anybody on my list, but I certainly can be nudged in another direction on a few of them. So the promo schedule is awesome. The 50 greatest Mariners celebration next August is going to be awesome. And there's one other thing I'm going to get to in a minute, but here is I would call it rough, but I would call it fairly good list for the Mariners top 50, right? So follow along with me. At catcher, Cal Raleigh, Dan Wilson, and I voted for Mike Zunino. More on that in a second. There's 3, right? For me, Cal Raleigh, Dan Wilson, Mike Zunino. First base, Alvin Davis, John Olerud, Tino Martinez. That's 6 total players. Second base, Robinson Cano, Brett Boone, Joey Cora, Harold Reynolds. That's 10 players. Shortstop, Alex Rodriguez, J.P. Crawford, Carlos Guillen. That's 13. Third base, Kyle Seager, Adrian Beltre, Eugenio Suarez, Jim Presley, Mike Blowers. That's 18. Designated hitter, Nelson Cruz, Edgar Martinez. That's 20 players. Outfielders, Ken Griffey Jr., Jay Buhner, Ichiro Suzuki, Julio Rodriguez, Phil Bradley, Raul Ibanez, Mitch Haniger, Mike Cameron. That's 28 players. Utility players, Dylan Moore and Mark McLemore. That's 30. Starting pitchers, Randy Johnson, Felix Hernandez, Jamie Moyer, Freddie Garcia, Logan Gilbert, George Kirby, Luis Castillo, Aaron Seeley, Mark Langston, James Paxton, Hisashi Iwakuma, and Diego Segui. That's 42 players. Relief pitchers, Kaz Sasaki, J.J. Putz, Edwin Diaz, Andres Munoz, Mike Schooler, Jeff Nelson, Arthur Rhodes, and Norm Charlton. That's 50 players. In my mind right now, that's the 50 greatest Mariners. Now, I've seen some compelling cases, right? Jose Lopez, former All-Star. Gene Segura, former All-Star. Omar Vizquel, that one, certainly complex. Omar Vizquel has a kind of off-the-field history now that is checkered. At best, it's probably that's going to help keep him out of the Baseball Hall of Fame, or certainly kind of limit his support in the Baseball Hall of Fame. But he's got a case for the Mariners top 50. Gaylord Perry won his 300th game as a Mariner. Eric Hansen, excellent pitcher. He's got a real case. I may end up bumping somebody eventually for Eric Hansen. I've seen that I am not as well versed in some of the older Mariners, Rupert Jones, Gorman Thomas, guys I don't know quite as well. Dave Valley is someone that has gotten a lot of support that I have seen people talking about. So this is my list, and it is my list for now. But I will tell you that those are the 50 players that I voted for, right? I did vote for them. I did put my ballot in. Maybe as the months go on, I would change something. But for now, those are the 50 that I put in there. And again, I hate rankings, and I hate power rankings. This one, I actually had a fun time talking about and talking through. On the 50th season, in addition to the fun of the anniversary team, in addition to the fun of the promotional schedule and kind of the nostalgia of it all, I think that this next season is actually going to be a very, very important one for the Mariners organizationally. Obviously, on the field, the goal of getting to the World Series is going to be ever present. But in terms of fence mending, I think this year is going to be the biggest year, and I think it's going to be the best chance to mend fences that need mending. The 2026 season is going to put a final bow on the Randy Johnson experience, right? Randy Johnson, arguably the greatest pitcher in franchise history, traded, bad blood, clearly. Randy spoke about it when he met with the media this year. Heck, he took a shot at the prior ownership group when he was on the team's broadcast in Arizona earlier this season. So he's going to get his number retired on May 2nd, the Mariners announced. That will put a bow on the Randy Johnson experience. Randy was welcomed back this year. They made the announcement that they were going to retire his jersey. He caught a first pitch from Ichiro, 51-51. And now this in 2026, the Randy Johnson fences will be mended. I think that the 2026 season is going to be the best chance ever to put a major dent in the Alex Rodriguez frustrations. I spent a lot of time 2 weeks ago talking kind of to my friends over at the Marine Lair about A-Rod and about the feelings about A-Rod. This is the chance that both the organization and A-Rod have to come together, right? This family reunion setting, this family reunion season of which A-Rod is going to be a part of. He is going to be a part of the top 50 Mariners of all time. They are going to have to welcome him back in a non-broadcasting capacity. And this is going to be a chance for the fans to forgive him. It's going to be a chance for the organization to forgive him. It's going to be a chance for him to speak more openly again to the organization and to the fans, kind of in a big kind of welcoming setting. This is going to be the best opportunity A-Rod has to mend fences, and it's going to be the best opportunity the Mariners have to mend fences with him. If A-Rod's going to get into the Hall of Fame, the Mariners Hall of Fame, anytime soon, it's going to be kind of launched from this season's jump-off point, because the history of the organization will be on display. And Alex Rodriguez is a huge part of the history of the organization. This is the chance for everybody to move forward. And as someone who carried an A-Rod grudge for a long time and still does, I no longer hate Alex Rodriguez, but I carry an A-Rod grudge for a lot of reasons. I talked about him 2 weeks ago. You can go back and listen. If you're looking to bury those grudges and to get past them, everybody, this will be the season to do it. And Buster Olney of ESPN expanded on that a little bit with me in yesterday's talk as well.
Yeah, and the old phrase, it reminds me of that, time heals all wounds. And, I worked with Alex in Sunday Night Baseball. I really enjoyed my time doing that. We text from time to time. I know, over time, he's sort of wanted to make amends. You've seen his recent documentary about him, him dealing with stuff on camera, talking about what he did with steroids, et cetera. And I know this too, from all of our trips together, hanging out in meetings, being at ballparks. I mean, he loved his time with the Mariners. He loved, the stories he has about Edgar and playing alongside Randy. I mean, he just loved his time there. And so I would fully expect that he would come forward. There are some organizations who hold the steroid thing over the players. Sammy Sosa, it took him years and years and years to get back with the Cubs. And I do hope that eventually that it happens with Alex and the Mariners, because look, he's part of their history, whether some of it, is the best history you want. He is part of the history, and that's never going to change.
Still to this day, I've always been under the impression that Alex Rodriguez used steroids with the Texas Rangers and the New York Yankees, not the Seattle Mariners. So I would never hold the steroid thing over Alex Rodriguez when it comes to his spot in the Mariners organizational history when it comes to him being in the Mariners Hall of Fame, when it comes to him being a part of this team. Just like, look, Nelson Cruz is an admitted steroid user, but never with the Mariners. So I would not hold that against him either. Robinson Cano is a steroid user, did use steroids with the Mariners. I would still put him on this team. I may not put him in the Mariners Hall of Fame, but I would still put him on this All-50 team. So the steroid thing doesn't matter to me at all when it comes to kind of A-Rod's perception with the Mariners. It is how he left. It is kind of the lie he told on the way out about wanting to go to a winner and then taking the biggest dollar amount possible. That will always stick with me. And then it's the fact that we haven't really heard him make amends. He was on Brock and Salk on Seattle Sports 710 in July of 2024, and he did say some of those things. I want to hear them more often, and I want to hear them more publicly. The things Buster says about how Alex felt about the Mariners, I want to hear Alex Rodriguez say it. And this year, or this upcoming year, will be the best chance that all parties have to move on. And the same thing can be said for Kyle Seager. I hope that Kyle Seager comes back in 2026 as a part of this festivity. And I know that he'll be welcomed back because, and I don't pretend to know everything behind the scenes with Kyle Seager and Jerry Dipoto. It's very clear that Kyle Seager is not a fan of Jerry Dipoto. You can go find public reporting from Ryan Divish of the Seattle Times. I wasn't covering the team on a daily basis at that time, so I don't have all the details, and it's not fair for me to kind of regurgitate some things I've heard behind closed doors. So the fans will certainly welcome back Kyle Seager because the fans will always side with the player over the executive, at least most sides, most times, especially when I'm sure not every part of their feud is public knowledge for the fans to kind of draw any other conclusion about. Kyle Seager will always have a huge place among Mariners fans. I hope that he wants to come back, and I hope he enjoys coming back, and I hope that he recognizes how much Mariners fans love him, because Kyle Seager holds a very special place in Mariners history. And I don't know that he knows that. And I hope that he does. And if he doesn't know it, I hope that if and when he comes back, I hope he recognizes it. And that can heal some of these wounds that he clearly has, or heal some of these grudges that he clearly has. Because there was the 90s Mariners. We all know about them. 2001 Mariners. We all know about them. There was Ichiro, who kind of carried the franchise for a while. Then there was Felix Hernandez, who carried the franchise for a while. But alongside Felix Hernandez, especially in the 2010s, was Kyle Seager. And while Robinson Cano was really liked and Nelson Cruz was really beloved, these guys were here for 4 or 5 years. And they weren't homegrown players. They were outsiders. They were hired help. And that's fine. Those players can be beloved too. But Kyle Seager was a homegrown player, and a homegrown player will always mean more. And I hope that Kyle Seager comes back, and I hope he is shown that, and I hope he recognizes how much he is loved, because he is. And this season will have an opportunity to heal a lot of wounds for him as well. All right, the last kind of big story of the day. Adam Jude, Seattle Times, reporting that the Mariners are comfortable giving Colt Emerson an opportunity to win a starting job in spring training, either at third base or at second base. So right there, off the bat, let's just understand that Ben Williamson, Colt Emerson, and Cole Young, as it stands today, those three guys are battling for 2 spots, 2 starting spots. Someone's going to end up disappointed and left out of the conversation. If the Mariners are really opening the door for Colt Emerson to start with this team on opening day, then one of Ben Williamson, Cole Young, and Colt Emerson ends up left out of the party. So spring training, the battle among those 3 is apparently real, and it's going to be fascinating to watch. I personally, at this moment, still have a hard time believing Colt Emerson breaks camp with this team. for a few different reasons. But mainly, Colt Emerson has played 40 games above high A in his minor league career. 40 games. Cole Young played 178, and we still saw him come up, and we still saw him struggle. Now, maybe Colt Emerson is better than Cole Young, and maybe Colt Emerson doesn't have to be on the same timeline as Cole Young. But if Cole Young gets 178 games above single A, and Colt Emerson gets 40, that seems to be a very big disparity. Even Julio Rodriguez, a guy who won Rookie of the Year, who's got 3 top 10 MVP finishes in his career already. Even Julio Rodriguez had 46 games above high A by the time he came up to the major leagues. So Colt Emerson is going to get less games than Julio? I personally find that hard to believe. So that's one. Number 2, if the Mariners are really confident in both Colt Emerson and Ben Williamson, then they're going to sit out the third base market. They're going to sit out the Eugenio Suarez market, right? They're going to try to bring back Polanco, but they're going to sit out the third base market because they're just going to wait and see which one of those two guys wins the third base battle, it sounds like. That is possible, but it seems interesting to me that we know they'd want to bring back Suarez, but that they would basically sit out the market and then just kind of wait to see which one of the young players grabs the position. That seems interesting to me also. The Mariners, if they start Colt Emerson early, risk losing a year of team control on him, right? We see this all the time where people manipulate it. Do the Mariners want to bring him up in the end of March and risk losing a year of team control? I don't think that's their biggest concern, but it's certainly something to think about. So I don't see it happening, but now that Adam Jude's put it out there and the organization is kind of waxed poetic about Emerson, I guess I have to start thinking of it as a possibility. And I think it's also fascinating about Cole Young. I mean, if the Mariners are going to maybe put Colt Emerson at second, then what is happening to Cole Young? Is Cole Young going to AAA and going to play more games, at the minor league level? Is he going to become the next Dylan Moore? Is he going to become the guy who's the utility guy? What happens to Ryan Bliss? What happens to Leo Rivas? Is there a chance they could trade Cole Young? I suppose everything is on the table right now. If you're willing to put Colt Emerson at second, then everything is on the table for Cole Young. Now, my thought personally is that the Mariners should let Ben Williamson start at third, and they should let Cole Young start at second, and Jorge Polanco should be the designated hitter. And if they have to play Polanco at third once in a while or at second once in a while, then that's fine. And then Colt Emerson can come up in August or earlier if he's raking and somebody is injured, or if Ben Williamson can't hit. But I would give Colt Emerson at least April in the Pacific Coast League to get 20 games under his belt at least, right? Like if he's having a great April, then we can reevaluate. But I was surprised to read this kind of so definitively from Adam Jude that the Mariners are willing to give him an opportunity. I mean, to compare him and his track to Julio Rodriguez, man, that is some high praise, and those are some big shoes to fill. I would rather see Colt Emerson get 100 games above high A ball, right? At least 60, at least 2 months of good health and good performance in AAA. That's what I would like to see. But at the very least, I think we got to give him April. He's played 6 games at AAA this year. Can we give him at least 20 more? And what is the thought process on Cole Young? Because if they aren't coming out and definitively saying he is our guy at second, Colt Emerson might be, then there's something really worth paying attention to there. Ben Williamson, Cole Young, Colt Emerson, one of them kind of ends up at the back of the line. All right, the non-tender deadline is coming up on Friday afternoon. So you're going to listen to this on Friday morning. Friday afternoon, the non-tender deadline is going to happen. So briefly, I'll just say this. MLB Trade Rumors has the Mariners with 4 players that could potentially be non-tendered. Taylor Saucedo, Luke Raley, Gregory Santos, and Trent Thornton. So Saucedo is going to be a given. And that's too bad because we like Sauce. Had a good 23 and a good 24. And he's a Seattle guy, good guy, likable guy, active on social media, interacts with the fans. He's already been DFA'd, so no one's going to trade for him by the time you listen to this and the time the deadline happens. He's going to be non-tendered, and that's a bummer. We like him. We'll root for him wherever he goes. So Taylor Saucedo is going to be non-tendered. Luke Raley is interesting. One, he's projected to make $1.8 million. And 2, there's kind of a positional redundancy here, right? Like, because Naylor's back, they no longer need him at first. And they have 3 outfielders to start, Arozarena, Julio, and Robles. Now, bonus points that Luke Raley is left-handed and could potentially, platoon with Robles, but there's also Dom Canzone to do the exact same thing. Canzone is younger. Canzone is cheaper. Now, he's not as good a defender, and he doesn't run as well, but because he's younger and cheaper, I think he's a guy you would keep over Luke Raley. At the moment, the designated hitter spot is open because Polanco isn't here, so I guess there's a world where Canzone's the DH and Raley's the 4th outfielder. I would keep Luke Raley at this point because of the scenario I just said. Right? Polanco is not here. So Canzone and Raley operate as a DH and a platoon partner for Victor Robles tandem. That's what I would do. And if you bring back Polanco and you want to trade Raley at some point or trade Canzone at one point, I could understand that. But until you have Polanco in the fold, I would not just go non-tendering guys who are only making $1.8 million. And Luke Raley had 22 home runs just a year ago in 2024. And he runs well. And he's a good clubhouse guy. So I would stick with Raley. I also would stick with Gregory Santos. Now, Gregory Santos' star has fallen. He has gone from a guy I think should be a lockdown 8th-inning option to just a, quote, interesting arm. But he's 26 years old, and he's projected to make $800,000. Somewhere in there is a good pitcher. And for $800,000, I'm going to be willing to stick it out a little bit longer with him. The way I see it, the Mariners have they have 5 bullpen spots accounted for next year. If everyone's healthy. Andres Munoz, Matt Brash, Gabe Spire, Edward Bizardo, and Carlos Vargas. That's 5. You'd like to think they're going to put another lefty in there. That's 6. The other 2 spots, your guess is as good as mine, right? All these guys they've signed to minor league deals this offseason, all these guys they've claimed off waivers, they're all in the mix of interesting. Alex Hoppe, who they just traded for from the Red Sox, Troy Taylor, Gregory Santos falls into that mix. I'd be willing to keep him. I want to keep him and see if he can be the guy that they thought they were trading for before the 2024 season. Trent Thornton is the 4th one. He's projected to make $2.5 million. A lot of this really stems from his health. Tore his Achilles at the end of July. He's been throwing for a while, but I have no idea kind of how his full ramp up is going to be, right? Jason Tatum for the Boston Celtics tore his Achilles tendon in June in the NBA playoffs and is expected to miss the entirety of the NBA season, which takes you through April. So is Trent Thornton, who's tore his Achilles basically on August 1st, going to be ready by opening day? I don't know. I don't know enough about Achilles tendons to tell you that. Obviously, it's different sports and different movements and different muscle groups and all that. My gut tells me the Mariners non-tender Trent Thornton and try to pay him less. That they'd like to keep him around and add him to that pile. Right? I talked about the 2 righty spots being open. Maybe Trent Thornton gets one. Maybe Gregory Santos gets one. Maybe it's Troy Taylor, whoever. I just think they'd like to keep Trent Thornton around, but I don't think they want to pay him $2.5 million, especially with the kind of the uncertainty of his health. So to recap, Saucedo's out. I would keep Luke Raley, but I'd be open to trading him as we move forward through the offseason. I would keep Gregory Santos, and Trent Thornton, I think, is going to be non-tendered, and the Mariners are going to try to bring him back on a lesser deal. All right, just a quick note. My buddy Joe Doyle over at Overslot Baseball, he put out a fascinating tweet. And now he did a good job teasing it, but he put out a fascinating tweet. And you have to be a subscriber to his site to read the full story. But he's got a story, and I was able to read it, of 3 Mariners that almost weren't Mariners on draft day. He's got a story in there about how Logan Gilbert almost ended up with the Baltimore Orioles. He's got a story about how the Mariners almost ended up with an outfielder who ended up in a World Series for another team. And he's got a story about another key member of the Mariners that almost didn't end up a member of the Mariners at all. And it's somebody that we've talked about in this episode. So I'm not trying to give you the hard sell, but that story, those stories are worth going to find. And because Joe, Joe's looking to make a living also, I'm not going to give away all of his content. Logan Gilbert is a worthwhile story for you to go find out. The third one will kind of blow your mind. It involves the Mariners and the Boston Red Sox, and it was fairly recent. So I would encourage you to subscribe to Joe's content at Overslot Baseball. I do. He's great. He's obviously a friend of the show, so we want to treat him right. We love having him on. So go find Joe's stuff at Overslot Baseball. Also, go find our stuff at Mariners Roundtable. Myself and Taryn Kovacs. You can Google us, Seattle Mariners Roundtable. You can now see us on Yahoo Sports by clicking on the MLB tab and clicking the Mariners page. We are everywhere, and we appreciate the support. We are 2.5 months into this thing, and it has gone great, and we're looking forward to keep building it. Next week is Thanksgiving. We will not talk to Buster Olney next week. We will not be as active next week. I will have an episode at the early part of next week. And if there's breaking news over the holiday, then I'll come on and talk about it. But we are taking Thanksgiving and Black Friday off from this podcast, unless there is breaking news. I am thankful for our Mariners Roundtable community. I am thankful for the Refuse to Lose podcast community. You guys and have welcomed Taryn and I in as writers, and you welcome this podcast into your kind of listening lexicon. There's a lot of things to listen to out there. There's a lot of things to read. I consider you listening to me an investment of your time, and that is not an investment that I take lightly, and I hope that I am paying that investment off for you. Have an excellent Thanksgiving, everybody, and as always, go Ems.